So lately, I've been on a pretty big Joe Begos kick. If you aren't familiar with his work, he's an indie horror director, writer, and producer. He made his first short back in 2011 and now has 5 feature-length films under his belt. Earlier this year, I watched his 2013 debut titled Almost Human, and I had a lot of fun with it. Recently, I decided to get his second film, The Mind's Eye, from 2015, which is what I'll be reviewing today. So far, I have 4 of his 5 films in my collection, and so far, The Mind's Eye is definitely my favorite. I've just had so much fucking fun with this one. So here we have our main character, Zach, played by Graham Skipper, who is he's in a number of Joe Begos films, and I personally really like the dude. So Zach is a bit of a drifter, walking through a small town with no destination when he's stopped and harassed by local police. Imagine that. He hasn't broken any laws and refuses to stop and show identification. Obviously, this doesn't fly well with small-town cops, and they grab Zach, and he fights back naturally. Not with his hands, however, but with his mind. You learn that he has strong telekinetic powers, and along with several others, has been hunted by Dr. Slovak. Dr. Slovak runs a small research facility where he does tests on people with telekinesis and wishes to harbor their powers for nefarious reasons. He gets Zach to agree to come to his facility by telling him that he also has Zach's friend Rachel and will let him see her if he comes and submits. Once Zach gets to the place, he learns that he was lied to and he does not get to see Rachel at all. Dr. Slovak has developed an injectable serum that renders telekinetic powers near unusable in order to control these people. At this point, all Zach wants to do is rescue Rachel and get themselves out of there before Dr. Slovak does any more damage. I'll say it again, this movie is such a blast, and I enjoyed every second of it. It's well-paced, and I forgot to say that it is set in the year 1990, which I thought was pretty cool. We've seen countless movies lately that are set in the 80s, so 1990 was very welcome. Don't get me wrong, I mean, this is not without its faults. Characters are constantly making decisions that don't really make any sense. And not to really spoil anything, but here's one example. So there's a scene where Zach and Rachel are hiding out at Zach's dad's house, and it's they get there and they're like, "Don't worry, we're only gonna stay the night. You know, we won't stay here for too long." And it's like, that's like one of the first place someone would go to look. You know they're gonna raid family members' houses, and that's exactly where he was. So that part, I was just like, who came up with this idea? But anyways, I digress. I enjoyed this movie more than enough to overlook these flaws. I would describe this as kind of like a sci-fi horror in the vein of Scanners from David Cronenberg. There's no shortage of schlocky action scenes with plenty of satisfying gore, with lots of exploding heads and heads almost twisted off, point-blank gunshots to heads. Basically, no head is safe in this movie. Scoring this is kind of tough for me because I feel like my enjoyment definitely exceeds the actual quality of the film. But I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to give The Mind's Eye an 8 out of 10 because I just loved it and it made me a fan of Joe Begos. I'd strongly recommend this to all horror and sci-fi horror fans, especially if you love Scanners and 80s and 90s kind of retro horror throwbacks.